Nice, I like it. Okay, Perks.
Right.
Stepping away from the standard control mages, trying to take the free farm in the lane here with the Kassadin. And of course you have a TP to try and match some of the global pressure from this Galio here. But you're still gonna get pushed under your tower. That doesn't really change. You just don't really die.
But the beautiful part is Kassadin gets pushed under his tower in every matchup. So
that's true.
He's like, I'm already there. Might as well just live there. Might as well double down on the living under the tower strategy.
Maxlord getting the job and aggressive in the early game is now an option compared to the Maokai before, where it is a little bit harder to just like constantly look for skirmishes. You can do that on Jarvan in the early game.
And look, if you want to see an aggressive early game, Galio, Camille, Jarvan, Trundle, these are all characters who can start fights. And Misfits, everything is in the toolkit now. If they cannot play aggressive in this early game now, it crumbles.
Yeah.
Because you look at the opposite side, Deficio, Kassadin, Tristana, you're not outscaling that. That is just not realistically a late game option.
Oh, it's a very slow scaling come from D2 eSports, and that's why Misfits should be able to punish it early and mid game. If you ever feel like you can't engage as Maxlord, then something is wrong, because you will a follow-up. Galio ulti will come in, Camille will come from the side. A Trundle will be thrown in the face of the enemy right next to you. So Maxlord should be able to actually just jump in every time and feel super strong.
G2 confident after the last early game that they can take this, that they can slow this one down and play it out to late game. But for Misfits here in game 2, it is do or die in this early game.
Now bot lane, Dracos. It looks like a boring farm lane, right? No?
I mean, see, on the one hand, you want to believe that, right? Because 2 melee supports, but
yeah.
We're never going to know what kind of bot lane it is.
We expect very unhappy with the Kassadin pick, pointing fingers at Perks, being like you ruined the draft.
Well, we've been updated. It's actually trick mouse issues. But good guess, Deficio. Upset at the Kassadin pick. Classic reason to pause.
I mean, that's why you pause, right?
Guys, we need a new mid laner. I want someone who's going to pick Orianna every game.
Bot lane, though, the reason I asked the question, Dracos, is Alistar Tristana can actually have quite a lot of kill pressure against the Kalista. Again, we talked about this in Champs League. The combo from Alistar, which of course is just point on click, is very difficult to avoid as a Kalista. So the first time Alistar all-ins, Kalista might actually have to either get chunked to like 50% HP or potentially use a summoner spell. And then the second time you have an offensive summoner spell on Mithy and Ignite here, you can actually try and go for the kill.
And I think that's the thing. We see that Ignite packed in the hands of the support. That's when we have to really know that they are looking for some more aggressive action in the early game. The good news, though, for their side is that you talked about Maxlord being on the more aggressive jungler as we get back into game. So maybe if Sven and Mithy want to play aggressive, Maxlord can be the man to punish that.
I have to see. Once again, CC top lane for Afari. Mid lane Power Weaver with the massive taunt as well. Max now have 2 soul laners he can go for, where there is set up for him. Bot lane a little bit harder with the Trundle Pillar against the Tristana. But definitely is an option in case Sven and Mithy are just like pushing hard. Let's see what Maxlord can do early on. Trick on Gragas, you gotta remember, like while Gragas is a scaling tank, he can actually pack quite a punch in the early game for at least one great body slam flash gank or counter gank.
And sometimes that's all you need when you have Tristana, who, you know, maybe not the highest early damage bottom laner, but with an Ignite packed on the back of that Alistar, base damage is potentially more than enough to force an early aggressive move here. Question.
They want to hear that.
Deficio. Observers, can you take us to the cow? Has he banged the cowbell yet? Now, I'm not a big fan of superstitions like this, but I think it has to be acknowledged.
You gotta keep in mind, Mithy's an old man now in ELCS terms. He doesn't like all those young, funny, hip things. So there's no cowbell. Mithy's here to win. Not bang the bell.
But the cowbell usually means people win, Deficio.
He's all out of cowbell.
Oh, but there's always more cowbell, Deficio.
Not for Mithy. I'm telling you, he's old and grumpy.
All right, well, we'll see if old man Mithy wants to keep this going. For now, though, Misfits looking to take control of the bottom lane. No leash for their jungler. But headbutt back on top of that explosive shot. Just going to make it pretty easy to get a favorable trade onto Hansama.
Yeah, good old level 1 Alistar. Not exactly the most exciting times. You want to get your full combo under your belt with WQ and preferably even getting your E for even more lovely CC. top lane matchup. We saw this one last game. Very even in the early game. The junglers were up there trying to impact it. Expect won the lane after a few jungle ganks, and then suddenly a fire was pushed to his tower for basically the entire game.
And Official, I want your opinion on this. What lane, if you're Misfits, do you try to snowball here? Because I see a lot of champions that if they get leads in the early game can be incredibly successful.
I think it can be difficult for Maxwell in the bottom lane to actually snowball it unless when I mid they are pushing. So I think mid and top lane should be your targets. Kassadin most likely stuck on the tower after a few levels, and then top lane might be the opening for Maxwell. He's around mid for a start, but as you can see, Kassadin always push back.
Nice pillar coming in. Mithy can take a lot of damage there. The Oathsworn Croc comes down. Aggression into the mid lane, taunt going down, but end of the day, not a lot of kill pressure there for Power of Evil when he's by himself.
So Maxwell's first decision was not to gank. It was to set up early vision, Rift Scuttler, a ward being placed over the wall as well, because pushing mid lane, pushing bot lane. He wants to make sure they can just play aggressive and they don't get surprised by this random Gragas coming out of nowhere. That was the first priority for Maxwell. He's now succeeded there. See if he can actually find any sort of ganks. It is difficult down the bottom side because of the pushing lanes. Trick. He's not his top lane instead.
Bouncing over. Maynard on the way. Nice wall up. No follow-up, though. The hookshot wall dive is interrupted to a certain degree.
I'm not sure if Trick actually did show himself top. Probably did just at the end.
Foxy, though, very critical of the Misfits team composition. I think we've seen this composition or compositions like this where Kalista is the primary damage source work out, but we've also seen
if they win early game.
Yes, we've also seen them fail miserably, Deficio.
It really is early mid-game for Misfits. They can't afford just sitting and playing slow and passive and let G2 scale. Foxy said it himself right there. Armor will be picked up on the side of G2 eSports. They have a Kassadin and Tristan the late game. Power Viva, he wants to fight.
Trick gonna get taunted up. Perks has to burn the flash. This is a small advantage for Misfits in the early game, but we've seen these summoner spell trades before. We saw them in game 1. The question is, in game 2, will there be the follow-up for Misfits?
Well, they have 2 levels to do it. They want to do it before Perks hits level 6, and he can just jump away with ulti. Trick was there to just try and help Perks push out the lane. Actually kind of backfired for G2 Esports. Lane did not get fully pushed out, and Flash was now blown by Perks, but he's back in the lane. Now we have an opening here for Maxlore.
He's going to move back to the top side, clear out a bit of jungle. We'll see if he sets his sights then on the mid lane or on the top side of the map.
And this position just sucks for Perks. He's like, he's stuck in the middle of the lane without a flash. He needs his jungler around him. That's why Trick, once again, is here to try and provide some vision. Perks knows he just wants the lane to push towards him, so he can pick up the farm under his own turret, won't die to a follow-up gank from Maxlore. He's desperate for level 6 on this Kassadin.
Has to be, because you can see the CS differential. This is kind of expected for the early lane for Kassadin, but Perks' Orianna in game 1 was so clutch for G2. You talked about the individual laners just honestly crushing their matchups. That was definitely the case. This time around, they picked him a losing matchup. This is not, you know, a point where you're going to find a lead as a Kassadin in the early game.
But they're picking a matchup where if you just go completely even, you're actually doing more than fine. So if you are Perks, it's not about getting that 15 CS advantage in the early game right now. It's about just making sure you get experience and farm. Don't need early kills either as this Kassadin. You just want to take it nice and slow, not risk anything. Power of Evil hits level 6. Perks will very soon. Maxwell is in here, but this ward placed by Trick just before will, of course, spot him.
Lets him know. Scryer's Bloom coming out as well. Tells him exactly where the jungler is. So Perks respecting the information that's been given to him. Level 6 is in the bottom lane, not going to come through yet, but will add so much burst to the kit of Tristana if G2 want to look for aggressive engages as we move further in the game. And once again, calm, slow early game from both sides, but this is not what Misfits want. We're still waiting for them to find an opportunity somewhere to force these fights.
Have to remember this Galio ulti can be paired with the gank from Maxlore if you want to go for any sort of tower dives. Now, obviously, that is hard against an Alistar once he hits level 6. No ganks towards the top side either from Maxlore, not even actually paying attention to the lane, which could have been one of the openings for them. For ganks, Perks got his level 6. He's no longer that scared in the lane. What you can do as Power of Evil is you can actually charge up your taunt and still flash just straight at him with Maxlore coming in instantly, and there's a high chance Perks won't even get to jump away. Because it's not like he can just jump.
Yeah,
like jump, there's a little bit of a cooldown before he can use it again. You can kill him there.
Question is, do they have enough damage to capitalize on that? Of course, the beauty of the composition is as they move later in the game, if the Kassadin is a threat, if Misfits can find an early game lead, then they have the Camille, they have the Hextech ultimatum to lock Perks down to make sure that this mobility is not a factor. But sadly, Camille falls behind. Cassidy doesn't really care anymore about that lockdown.
Yeah, and very often when we see these like full physical damage compositions, we gotta look at the other side and say, well, how many members will actually stack armor? So like, how impactful will it be? In this meta, it's pretty easy to have a lot of champions that will get a lot of armor, like in this case, the Gnar, the Gragas, even the Alistar can get it. And also, Kassadin is a natural hourglass champion, especially early on in the game. So that's another way to get even more armor on the side of G2 Esports. It's only really Sven, who's not going to get a whole lot. Could get a Ninja Tappy if he wants to. Gonna sacrifice some damage. So now Maxlaw is finally looking towards the top lane, where we want to see some of the action, because Expect is squishy on his minion
All
arm.
die, flash forward, Hextech ultimatum, Galio coming in as well. Everything being committed from Misfits here in the early game. They're looking for the kill, the flash forward, the taunt. Expect is going to drop first blood for Misfits.
Yeah, that's what we wanted to see. This is why we talked about Maxlaw being on the top side, looking for a kill against this Gnar here, because there's no protection for Expect. He's squishy in the early game, and the top lane, much longer lanes, where you can go for these ganks with the Galio follow-up as well. Good play from Misfits, important with the first blood.
Powerwheel now continuing the aggression. Rift Walk available shortly, Perks. Gonna look to keep this trade going though, knows the trick is on the way. Maxlor is here as well. Cataclysm freshly up and available as he has just hit level 6. No one's following up on that, however. Gotta love being a Trundle. Not really scared of any other melee champion in the early game.
Sadly for Trundle, I'm not really dumpstering his lane either, so Kalista is just trading farm with the Tristana. Once again, good for G2 Esports. You want to see, of course, Hansama get towards his blade as fast as possible. Let's see the play top lane. Power Vivo already in position. Maxlaw abandoned the red buff to just go straight for the kill. And there's nothing you can do as Expect here against the CC setup of a Camille with her ulti.
And the Galio, and also
the Galio, and the Jarvan.
Well, now the aggressive comes in on the bottom side. Hansama is level 6.
So this is what we talked about earlier, Drakers. This was engage number 1. Where you force a summoner and you get Hansama low. If he stays, G2 Esports can all in with the summoner spell from Mithy and actually try and kill him.
Buster shot up and available for the Tristana. Ignite as well. A lot of damage in addition to the AD steroid.
But he should know this now. So Maxlaw is actually on his way towards the bottom lane. To prevent this from happening, he's also starting the Drake on the route down there. Meaning right now, Mithy can't really all in because they see 2 guys at the dragon.
And if you're not 100% confident that Galio ult is not up and available, there's just no way you can force the play. Of course, still a decent cooldown left. Power Vivo hoping to catch out Perks and will do so, but unfortunately his damage just so negligible to this Kassadin. Dragon getting lower, no one here to take it. Ignar gonna get it with an auto in the end.
That was a Kassadin Q flying towards that Drake as well.
Ignar, Fate's Call. All right. Makes it out. Of course, the safety of the lane not quite as crucial as it is with the Janna lane, but Fate's Call is applicable as ever.
So that's another thing Misfits needs. Early Drakes, especially if it's Mountain Drakes, they can actually use to get a Baron with this Kalista comp around the 20-22 minute mark to really speed up the game. So great for them to actually secure it. It was risky, but they do manage to lock it down, not being afraid of the Kassadin at all in the mid lane. So far, succeeded with 1 gank top lane. Got the Mountain Drake, but not been getting big advantages in the bottom lane. They are behind right now. The Kassadin is farming. TP is ready for him again in case he needs it back to lane.
And we look at the opposite side. We look at G2. The confidence to take a late game scaling comp against something so early game focused on the side of Misfits. You have to remember, for G2, they don't just want to win, they want 2 zeros. Game differential as we move towards potential tiebreaker scenarios with Fnatic can be everything. So dropping single games may not seem much in the grand scheme of things, but when it comes down to tiebreakers, it can be everything for G2.
We have to highlight that for G2 Esports to secure first place in Group A, Fnatic needs to lose. They need to lose to either NIP or Rocket. Unlikely, except Rocket and beat them before.
Rocket. You can never count Rocket out, Deficio.
And then after Fnatic lose one of those games, they also then have to lose to G2 Esports. And then G2 can actually get first place. So it is still very much in the hands of Fnatic.
Oh, forward. The aggressive down on the Maxwell. Galio ult is coming in. G2 looking for the fight. Maxwell now trying to run. Damage moving forward. Who's actually going to take this one in the end? Perks has been locked up. Good damage coming in from Alfari. They need to take down the Camille. Power People not a damage threat. Perks going to get it. Immediate flash over the wall. Power trying to get something back. Has the red buff. Has the sustain. Perks running for his life. Flash comes out from Trick. The brief moment, the pause, the disengage. They still want the fight. They're unconcerned. Power may be able to get 2 here. Red buff Not going to get procced on the auto. Perks waiting for his cooldowns.
Oh, the Q missed. Oh,
Trying to predict on the taunt. That's dangerous.
He's walking away. Come on, keep fighting.
Perks, move back, Justice Punch, red buff, enough. Dangerous game it is, but it's gonna save the day for Perks.
And that's 2 kills now for the Kassadin. Even more farm and experience in the mid lane waiting for him as well. Maxlord died so early in that fight. Maybe he wants some revenge. Oh, Perks uses the jump. Maxlord.
No Cataclysm.
No flash
down.
either. No flash. He was looking for it.
That's so tense. What? I mean, you have to say, amazing confidence from G2 to extend that engage, but also very much just a catch onto Maxlord here.
All right, Trick moonwalking his way into the fight, joins it
Swag
instantly, and Maxlord takes so much damage before the ulti comes down from Power of Evil. Some of the damage could have been prevented. But then Jarvan dies, and yes, of course, Expect goes down as well, but now it's a 2v2, where the Kassadin is dealing with Galio and Camille. The fact that Perks actually knew exactly how much damage he could take is very impressive. We don't want to see more because now Trick is in the top lane. Tower dive.
Moving forward, flash up and available for Alphari. Flash for Expect as well. Ultimates.
They don't know where the Jarvan is. So if he's Gromp, blue buff, something like that nearby, he could show up and turn it around. And G2 eSports make the correct call because he is actually at the Gromp. They want Alphari away from the tower. Ulti is ready for Trick in a few seconds.
Power, though, still doing very well. 2-1-1. The Abyssal Mass to deal a bit of extra damage. Perks now running for his life. Flag and drag does still get the stun down. Chain CC comes in. Mithy there for the disengage.
Trick is still sitting up here. Ulti's ready now.
Forward knocked back. No hook shot. No wall dive. Ooh! Cask not going to connect. Good flash, good patience coming in from Alphari, but Maxlord moving into 2 full health members. Galio on the way. Will have the ultimate shortly. They just need to extend the play. Leap forward with the Cataclysm. Galio ulti is coming in, but so is the TP. Perks is on the way in. The 2-0 Kassadin wants to play clean up here. Hectic Ultimatum comes out. Perks, have you stayed too long? Yes, Callista on the way. Misfits with the turn and burn, and they're looking to keep this one going. Red buff ticking down and Expect. Ignore, he's too far forward. The flash out, the heal to take him to safety.
I love this game, Drake, because there's so many awesome fights early on. G2, they realized instantly they don't want to go for that kill against Alphari. They had to just back away. Alphari did use his flash very early on, but then all of Misfits show up, turn it around. Power of Evil, super active on this Galio here. Every single time the ulti is ready, they are making a play in the side lane. Let's see it again here. Alphari is afraid of getting bursted down. That's why he's actually flashing here once Trick uses it very late, despite G2 actually walking away from that fight. Maxlord shows up, he's confident, he knows the Galio ulti will follow, which is why he can even go under the tower for a short moment here. Ulti comes in, Ignite is there, Callista is there, like every single player is fighting in the top lane, and we're still very early in this game. Perks coming in with low HP, not being strong enough.
To be fair, if Hansama was not there, he probably would have killed somebody in exchange.
But Hansama was there.
Definitely was the case. And you can see Power of Evil. Yeah. So when we said Galio not really a kill threat, he does still do a lot of damage in these extended engages.
All right, so tons of fights so far, 60 minutes into the game. Very even, which is once again
not in the favor of Misfits.
Not in the favor of Misfits, yes. It's great for G2.
But Deficio, they have been executing better in the fights. They have been forcing fights in the same way that we wanted them to see. And yes, they are playing against the clock of the Kassadin, but it doesn't feel like they're out of this yet.
Yeah, exactly. Like the mid game is by no means over just yet. We're not full late game. We're not seeing like a million armor on the side of G2 and affect late game Kassadin. So Misfits still have plenty of time to actually make these plays, but they gotta start really getting advantages from them. No more trading 1-for-1, you know, tower for tower. No, they need to get big wins in these fights.
Trick secures blue buff. Perk's gonna go over the wall. No follow-up, no Cataclysm. Nobody taking risks here on the side of Misfits to dive any deeper.
No flash on Expect. He's still very squishy. You can have Maxlord come in with the Galio ulti and actually just tower dive him. They're doing it in the bottom. They're fighting top.
Trundle's dealing a little bit of AD, but it may not be enough. The burst damage from Tristana is too much. That's the all-in engage. Bot lane going to drop, though. Misfits, once again, the 3-man duo, the top side triangle, more than enough to keep the fight going, but G2 are firing back. The bottom lane, carrying them through.
And both teams just making the correct calls here. Sven and Mithy, they know 2v2, they can go for these all-ins against Callista. Bot lane, well, Misfits, they know they can kill Expect. No flash, squishy Mininar. all in with everything they got. They do get the kill. They will get some damage on tower. And Maxlor, you're trying to get a second Mountain Drake. No smite for a few seconds. It is up now. Trick to steal it.
Definitely cannot take the fight, but Power Vivo is on the way.
Smart.
Justice Punch, where's it going to be? Flash over the wall.
But that's a big one here. That's a big one for G2. 2 Mountain Drakes for Misfits with this Kalista. It just signals 20-minute Baron Rush, and then suddenly G2 eSports might lose it, and the game snowballs out of control.
Yeah, and Cassidy may be great at killing people, but he is not great at defending towers if we move later into the game. Have to respect it.
And he's also delaying his damage by stacking all this armor here. So Perks are investing a lot in towards the late game. Of course, means that right now he's not a massive threat against Misfits, but he doesn't need to be. He just needs long fights where Sven as well can just kind of sit there and hammer away. Let's see the bot lane play. It's very simple. Good engagement from Afari. Ulti comes in from the Galio, and there's no way out as expected, because awesomely enough, the Camille ulti and the Galio ulti, they fit very nicely together.
Look at that, circles. The Venn diagram coming together. Perks, though, just continues to get aggressive. No, maybe he can't fight a Galio. That's definitely the case. But definitely can start to fight this Kalista, whittle away at this Trundle on the bottom side. And I gotta say, looking at that bot lane matchup, Sven starting to pull ahead already. Good look for G2. Blade of the Rune King early itemization, not always what we see from the Tristana, but you can see the power it's giving him in those 2v2 skirmishes with Hans Sama.
And he knows his job is to kill tanks. There are a lot of tanks on the side of Misfits. It's not about killing Hans Sama for this Tristana, it's about killing whoever is in front of him. And that is going to be a big tank. So the Blade of the Rune King makes a ton of sense for him. Fervor as well, just to stack that up very quickly and just keep it running for an entire fight. Power Vivo right now done well in this game, joining the side lane multiple times. And Sama and Ignore, they're fighting.
Moving forward, Martial Poise going to keep Hans Sama in range of Perks, but has to be careful. Retreating with the Rift Walks, burning through the mana pool very quickly. Looking for the knockup. Perks, nice Rift Walk to dodge away. Hans Sama, they're trading on the tower aggro. Hans Sama not going to tank it anymore. They're moving forward. Perks is going to drop. Beautiful play by the Misfits bottom lane. Trick not happy with the exchange, however. Hans Sama traded back.
Because of all the armor and Perks, then he stayed alive for such a long time, allowing Trick to show up for the counter gank and make sure it's a 1-for-1. It also stops Misfits from getting their first tower. Another important thing to notice, if you want to really snowball a game, you gotta get early towers so you can really open up the map and push the enemy far back. G2 eSports getting a 1-for-1 top lane means the top lane tower stays healthy, and it slows down Misfits once again. G2 eSports even with a goal lead at this point.
Yeah, a 1K advantage on a team that scales better, on top of getting the first tower in the game, matching in the Dragon department. A good look
good
for the
Ninja
squad.
Tabby's in there as well.
And I mean, look, there's a Frozen Heart now for Trick as well. It just gets harder.
So look at this here. Because of all the armor on Perks early, it just takes forever for Hans Sama to kill him. Nice dodge there as well. And you can just look at the minimap. Trick has been walking from basically the mid lane towards the top lane to say, oh yeah, you're on the tower now. Great play from him. Make sure that no one is getting any further advantages. Let's see if any of the towers are low. Mid lane tower from G2 is down to about 25%. That is the only one right now the Misfits can easily take down.
We look at it too, with a Gnar on the team that's not doing too poorly, still very risky for Misfits to push for a Baron, even if they have the guaranteed smite from the Kalista. And as you look at the gold graph so far, Misfits, they're fine in those early leads, but G2, when G2 try to find leads, you can see very different pace of game.
Yeah, if you look at the top lane, you just highlighted the Gnar, dying multiple times, but still actually trying to keep up in items. Alfari is 600 gold ahead of expect, despite it being 100 or 200 CS to 145. And assist for Alfari. Sadly for him, he didn't get kills. And also, there's a tower on the side of G2 eSports. Level advantage is very big here for Camille. She needs to win this 1v1 hard. She needs to be a massive threat for Misfits to actually apply more pressure, because they're not going to win the mid lane right now against this Tristana with Hurricane. She's just going to perma push it. You can always play around the Kassadin lane, don't push him in. That's what they're trying to do.
Misfits moving forward, have to see if they want to go for an aggressive play here. Ignore on the backside, Pillar, keep your eyes out for it. Mithy all alone, TP coming in as well. The cow has been knocked up, still has the Unbreakable Will available. Just going to flash out to safety, doesn't want to commit anything else.
Mid lane tower, 25% HP. If Misfits can actually get onto the tower, they should be able to take it down. That's the Baron rush. Oh, imagine if they had a second Mountain Drake already, but no, they will have to do it with just one.
Expect is still pushing in on the bottom side. His rage is building up. Maybe this is the opportunity for G2 to force a fight here, but as the Callista Spears go in, their chances of Smite stealing it away get smaller and smaller, but Misfits, they want the fight. Now backing off, the team is split up beautifully by Trix Engage. Alfari running for his life. What an engage from Expect, now firing back. Goodbye, Hansama. Moving in for more. G2 wipe the floor with Misfits.
And goodbye, Misfits Gaming. A fight like that, you simply cannot afford to lose it if you are the team who needs to snowball. They were looking for that Baron, early Baron. They had one Mountain Drake, they had a Callista. They were hoping it would be enough. Misfits here, as soon as they started, G2 eSports, they show up. They take the fight. Mithy saved his ulti before. He used flash instead of ulti to just get straight out of the fight, to then have the ulti for the following fight here. Let's look at it again.
Watch Camille. I think this is the big thing. Alfari goes in, does nothing.
He sees Sven, thinks he can catch him. Sven jumps out instantly and Expect, basically like in game one, in crazy strong engages with this Gnar. And he finds multiple members in the back. G2 eSports, they get the Baron now, and this was supposed to be the objective for Misfits.
They're hoping. Now they're hoping for a consolation prize, maybe a pick-off to stay in this game. But for G2, we have to praise them. Their team fighting this series has been immaculate. Their ability to split up the opposing team with the Janna, with the Gragas, doesn't matter. They always find a way to get onto those priority targets and stop the carries on the side of Misfits from doing damage.
And it's not like Misfits, they've not been trying. They've been proactive. They've really looked to force a lot of fights, especially around Expect. But even 2v2, we've seen Hansama and Ignor fight multiple times. They are actually just getting outplayed by G2 eSports. It's not because they're not being active or anything.
We can go back to the start of the series. The discount G2, maybe not fair in terms of the stylistic differences, but G2 definitely looking like the stronger team in this series. And to have so much trash talk stacked up against you and to not be able to do anything about it, not be able to prove the people saying it wrong,
I don't want to call it
frustrating.
Sure, I don't want to call it trash talk, I want to call it banter. And I'm really happy that our pro players are actually doing it in these opening features. It makes it a lot more fun going into the game, tracking what Maxlaw can do against, you know, Trick on the other side. Sven, who called Trick the best jungler in Europe right now. I think Trick, fine game from him. Didn't really have to do a whole lot. So it's not been kind of his,
not the game where he proves it, but maybe the game where Perks puts himself up for player of the series because he is playing so aggressive on this front line. Alfari, ulti coming in for the Galio. Perks is going to get knocked up, but watch Expect. He goes in once again. Hansama, they're going to try to lock him up, but he's dashing away. The Marshall Poise keeping him alive for now, but Sven now a frontline AD carry leaping in once again. Alfari dropped as well. There is too much mobility and no escape from Misfits.
And right now, G2 eSports are just running over Misfits in every single fight. They're gonna go straight for the inhib with 25 minutes into the game. Multiple items already completed on the carries. The tanks are almost unkillable. Misfits Gaming, they ran out of time.
Once again, they mitigated the early win conditions of Misfits. Any early aggression Misfits tried to lay down. G2 responded with a play of their own. They were willing to suffer in the early game. The double kill for Perks on the top side. So quickly swinging things back in their favor. And really, at this point, Misfits are just praying for an opening from the side of G2 because the way this game is going, 2 inhibitors down. We saw this in game 1. There is not a lot of room to come back.
What is the biggest disaster right here? That Misfits Gaming are so far down with a comp that needed to snowball? Or the fact that Mithy has still not given us the cowbell? You decide. 2 very valid and serious options.
All I'm saying is if you want to pick a reason not to be a fan of G2, it's definitely the cowbell thing.
For now.
For now.
He might give us one just before the game ends. This is a fight where a bunch of unkillable tanks and 2 fairly fed carries, they jump a team in the jungle. And the team getting jumped can't do anything.
Yeah, there's a Kassadin and a Tristana and 3 basically tanks to protect them. So
I like Power Vivo full HP just says peace. I'm out of here. Not my problem. I already helped early in the game. You guys are on your own now.
And it's grim. You can see Callista, despite getting dived on, did get some decent damage out, but not enough, I think it's safe to say. And at this stage of the game, you're not really going to outduel the Kassadin. And you're not going to outduel the Tristana as she already has the Infinity Edge.
And you're not going to out-team fight G2 eSports either. What do you do?
Okay, see, Expect. I think that something that would support that chest beating maybe a little little action, maybe a little percussion instruments? No. All right, G2 pushing in. This could just be the confident closeout right here. We've seen this before. The opportunity for one final fight from Misfits. Power of Evil going to find the taunt. Trick taking a lot of hope, waiting for the next wave before they push in any further.
We are still hoping that Misfits, in a perfect scenario, can actually get onto someone like Sven with all the tanks, offering enough in terms of base damage to kill him. You gotta keep in mind Camille also sitting with Trinity Force and Titanic Hydra, so give her a few seconds and her damage is fairly serious against someone like Sven. Problem is, sticking to him is very difficult. On Perks instead.
Disengage. No Rift Walk to get him out. They're trying to get the burst damage down. Perks can't get to safety. Zonya's used. Rift Walk will be available again. Yes is the answer now.
Here we go.
The dunk coming forward. Hansama untouched on the back line. Does the AD carry have enough damage? Because Sven is in a similar state. Both AD carries trying to take their teams to victory. Trying to keep the hopes alive. Sven taunted up. The heal still coming out. Hansama, he needs to kill the priority target. The tank's still alive on the side of Misfits. Sven going forward. He's looking for Hansama, the madman. And he's gonna get it. Misfits crumbling at the hands of Sven and G2. The laugh to close it out. The BM. This man is so confident.
That was actually a good fight, though, from both teams. Misfits game, and they almost managed to win it. Sadly for them, there were a bunch of super minions behind as well.
End of the day, beautiful final fight for G2 in their favor from the moment Misfits misstepped, and a confident closeout for the G2 lineup.
I like the fact that Misfits Gaming, they tried to go for early snowball. Test how proactive can we be? Can we actually get this advantage? They now know that it was difficult. It was hard for this team to actually win the early game against G2 eSports. And as we said earlier in this series, like, if you are Misfits, you want momentum, you want confidence. Playoffs is just around the corner.
And to Fisher, I wish I could say, like, oh, it's no big deal. G2's a top team in Europe. You know, it's okay to lose these matches. And it is in the regular season. It's okay to lose and figure out things to improve on. But this close to playoffs, this is when you need to start showing your stuff, when you need to start taking down these top teams, when you need to prove that you deserve a place among the best teams in Europe.
Yeah, right now, a lot of question marks for Misfits. Smiling, happy faces on the side of G2 eSports. They guarantee at least second place in Group A. They still want to get that first place, but they need Fnatic to lose some games for that to happen. But with the way G2 are playing right now, like, them versus Fnatic truly is the battle for who is the best team in Europe going into playoffs.
I have to say this is the case. The consistency coming in for both Fnatic and G2 has been incredibly impressive following Rift Rivals.
Not lost a single series.
It's crazy to think about, right? Because for G2, I think at the start of the season, we look at this team, we look at this lineup, we thought, hey, you guys are going to be number one, no question. It all fell apart for the first time in what feels like ever since G2 have joined the LCS. We're like, this is a mid-tier team. And we had to say that because there were so many weeks where they fell apart, but now, coming back stronger than ever.
And they love this meta. Oh, it's perfect G2 meta. Team fighting picks for Expect, tank junglers for Trick. You can play a ton of different mages in the mid lane for Perks, where you can have strong impact in team fights. We even saw a little bit of a different one here from Perks with the Cassidy against the Galio. And then, of course, you can rely on your 2v2 laning in the bottom lane from Sven and Mithy every single game. And that is important when you see them give over Kalista first pick, saying, you know what, Tristana, Alistar, that will do the job. And once again, they perform.
When they had kill pressure, they found kills. When they needed to stay safe, they stayed safe. And it feels like that consistency and execution has been the backbone for G2 for so long. And now that Trick and Expect are having such clutch performances as well, you can see why people are getting excited about G2, why you can say that G2 is back from a team that, you know, we were really skeptical of to now a team that I can't say 100% for sure that they're the second best team in Europe right now, but you can say that they are definitely a contender.
Yeah, I mean, fine. To be fair, H2K also performing very well, so they are like a top 3 right there of teams looking strong. It's just, it was hard not to have sky-high expectations of G2 eSports after MSI. We were like, okay, surely they're just going to continue that trend and keep growing. Slowed down, as you highlighted, but once again, back in form. And Misfits Gaming, I mean, right now, going into playoffs, out of the 6 teams we're looking at with G2, Fnatic, Splice, H2K, Unicorns Love, and Misfits Gaming, they look like the weakest of the 6. and the team you want to face in a quarterfinal if you are a Group B team.
We heard that from Splice. They want the second seed. They're hoping to face Misfits. They've talked about it. They've reversed swept them before. They think that they can do it again. And for Misfits, a lot to prove, you know, moving forward. They looked much stronger coming into the last playoffs. The slump felt turned around after the reverse sweep. But at the end of the day, one man who has been continuing to perform in the last few weeks, a huge uptick for this guy. It is expect he is going to be our player of the series. And, you know, you can watch the highlights. You can go back and look at just about any team fight that he's involved in, and you'll see why. Pretty safe to say just insane Gnar play, fantastic engages, consistently hitting the targets he needed to hit or disengaging for the key members of G2.
Exactly, like super good performance in these fights. He was under a lot of pressure in the second game and still managed to keep up at least somewhat in gold, also due to his team getting a little bit, a few towers on the map, but super good team fighting for him. A lot of guys, though, you should highlight and praise. Like, actually, funny enough, all 5 of them had great impacts, especially in team fights.
Definitely was a team game. Well, G2 got their revenge on Misfits Gaming after the loss in week 3. Let's see what their 80 carry thinks after that series.
All right, thank you very much, Dracos. And yeah, I'm joined by Sven. Congratulations. And can you please, just before we start, can you please tell Mithy we're all very disappointed in his lack of cowbell?
What? Oh, the emote?
Yeah, I didn't do it, man.
I've been telling him, like, you should do that thing more, like, it tilts enemies, but doesn't really, like, get it.
Yeah, oh well, maybe next time. So, hey, congratulations, you guys got the 2-0 victory. Is this revenge complete after week 3's loss?
You could say it's revenge, but it doesn't, like, really feel like revenge. It just feels like another day at the job.
Well, then you guys are looking forward, basically.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's fair enough. All right, so I do want to go back to the little bit of pregame banter that you guys had. You called Misfits Gaming a discount G2 eSports. Do you feel like that's still the case?
Yeah, that's funny because they're standing over there talking, so. But yeah, it was just a banter and joke, but yeah, I did say that in an interview.
Yeah, all right. So did that, if they are a discount G2, like it sounds like you guys would know them really well. Does that mean that they were easier to prepare for, easier to play against, or do you think that it actually gives them an edge?
It means they play the same style as us, but they're worse than us.
So just overall, it's really not going to give you a whole lot?
Like us, they play slow, they play macro-oriented, they play like a team, but they will lose more games than they will win against us, I think, just because we're better than them as a team, as players, I think. That's just how I feel.
Yeah. And so, you know, mid-tier team, obviously you guys have been climbing back in the standings, and it seems like a lot of the strategies you have developed have been working out pretty well for you. This bottom lane matchup in game 1, you guys picked up the Janna. That's something that excited a lot of analysts we hadn't seen as much of before. Do you think this is going to become like the new normal in the bottom lane?
I don't know if it's going to be normal, but it's very rising trend right now that supports pick something like Janna or Lulu and they buy this overpowered coin upgrade. They want to get more gold. Then you rush Iron Sensor, and then you have like a super OP 80 carry because he has a sensor so early in the game. That's very common. In lane phase, it's a bit hard sometimes against things like Saya Rakan or aggressive bot lanes. But once you make it out of lane phase and you make it to like sensor, sidestone, team fights are so easy. Once you get like a Hurricane on Kalista or something like that, you just can't lose. So yeah.
Yeah, and speaking of the Kalista, it seemed like that was kind of the priority in this matchup. People were picking that up so quickly. Obviously, that's been the case for all, but do you think that things like the Janna are unlocked by that, or it could work with other compositions?
Well, Janna is definitely better with Kalista than other AD carries because she buys the Hurricane, which means that she gets more use of sensor than other AD carries. Also, Janna can flash in, use the ult to like break a team fight, and then Kalista's gonna ult her out. So they have a good synergy, but Janna is good with like anything that's a hyper carry or a Hurricane champion, so she's rising in popularity. Also good against like tanks. She has more DPS. She doesn't do damage herself, but she makes her team do more damage. Her E, a lot of peel. She has the sensor on everyone. So yeah, she's rising in tank meta, I think.
Yeah, well, you guys have definitely thought a lot about this one for sure. So, it seems like the only opponent left in your path now. You're going to play a few more, but everyone's talking about the Week 10 match versus Fnatic. The state G2 are in right now. You feel like you guys are going to be able to take them down?
I think Fnatic is pretty good right now, but it kind of sucks that the match we play against them most likely will be a show match only. It won't mean anything for standings because I think they're too far ahead of us in either series or game differentials to make us overcome them. So the match is probably going to be like just a show match, but it'll be important for like the confidence into playoffs and like their mental state. But I think we can beat them. They're a good team, I think. But yeah.
All right, well, I'm looking forward to it. Everybody is, and thank you very much, Sven. All right, we're going to go ahead and send it back to the desk where Mithy will be joining both those guys. Take it away.
Thank you very much, Pino. We are, of course, joined by Sven's teammate. Mithy, we figured, is G2 eSports. We want to talk to 2 people. Mithy, I have to ask the meme question first before we get to the serious stuff. Why do you hate Alistair's cowbell so much on that skin? We didn't see it.
Why I don't use it?
Yes.
I don't like to use emotes. I think it's disrespectful.
Deficio said it's because you're an old man and you're against having fun. Is that true?
Yeah, that's true. I think I'm more professional than some others. Yeah.
I like that. I like that. Let's talk about the series. Pretty convincing. It felt like you guys were in control the entire time. Was there a point where you were ever really nervous or worried?
I was a bit nervous coming into the games, honestly. I didn't really feel like at home. Sometimes I feel at home, sometimes I don't. This was one of the games where I really didn't in the first game. But yeah, I felt overall fine. Kind of went how I expected it to go. So, yeah.
I was especially impressed with how little Mithy had to do in game 1 in order to have the most impact.
Why is that?
I feel like this is it's because of the Janna, right? Like, you just rush the ardent sensor, you can just rely on your superstar AD carry Sven to do all the damage, and if he's not dealing damage, it's never your fault, because you can see Mithy. Look at this beautiful execution here, providing the peel, landing the great exhaust, he still lives.
I played horrible. I didn't live. I actually flashed it. Anyway.
Okay, I was trying to give you the benefit of the doubt. But
thanks anyway.
Yeah.
I did a great job at collecting every single coin. So there's
And
that.
that's what it's about, right?
Yeah, I've been training that.
Well, training that indeed.
Yeah.
There was a lot of bands. I actually really liked a lot of the kind of trash talk leading up to this.
There was a lot more, but it didn't go on air. It was pretty smooth on like the air.
You have a chance right now. Do you want to debut it?
No. Now we won.
Okay.
Now
Well, look,
there's nothing to talk about anymore.
I asked earlier today whether or not the real G2 would stand up, and it's very clear that the real G2 did win.
it's why you should always pay full product. Pay full price for your product.
I
Because
see,
you
this is
never
why-
want the discount version,
This
right?
is why we should not prepare jokes. You're gonna mess it up. Mithy, did you get to the studio early enough to watch any of the Splice series?
I did. I mean, I kind of watched it, yeah.
Well, we've got a replay package of at least game 2. Let's pull that one up and talk about how Splice just destroyed Mysterious Monkeys. I mean, Vedius, you cast it.
Yes.
Give me a TLDR.
Well, what we saw was that I'm still a little hesitant on some of the team fights that we saw from Splice, but I love the fact that we're seeing a lot more early proactivity coming out from Trashy, and they seem to be adopting more of a 1-3-1 style, which is what they had a lot of success with in the past, where they got a lot of their advantages through playing the side lanes, and then once they had a pretty significant lead, then they would force these fights knowing that they had the gold advantage.
I mean, game 1 was pretty close. I mean, it wasn't really that close, but there was some action. It was fun to watch. Game 2 was pretty much a stomp. Every single lane lost for Mysterious Monkeys, at least like too much. Even though top 1, it wasn't really like, it couldn't impact the game enough. Their bot lane was basically smurfing on Mysterious Monkeys, and they were just inting it down, so there was no chance.
We've been talking a lot about Kobe and looking at him. He's kind of, in at least my mind, one of the best performing players on Splice. What's it like playing up against him, and what do you think of Kobe's current form in the summer split?
I think at first, I mean, long time ago, I thought he was not very good, but he's always been surprising me. And I think overall, the Splice bot lane is actually pretty consistent, and they're not afraid to take risks, controlled risks. Like, they don't take stupid risks, but they do take controlled risks where they rely on their mechanics, and they do that very well. So they're always an opponent that you really have to focus to play against, because they are willing to play, or at least try to play to the edge of their matchup and abuse their advantages.
As a team, they seem to be struggling. They got crushed by H2K last week. They're pretty locked into kind of third in their group right now.
Does that mean we're going to play them?
Potentially. If you take second, is that a worry? I mean, you played them in a final last year. Splice haven't exactly been in the best of forms.
I mean, it kind of worries me a little bit, because I'm kind of good with them, you know, like we hang out a lot, and it just sucks to see them lose. Like, if they maybe went on the other group, we could maybe meet somewhere else, you know, but the fact that they just have to lose against us before they even make it to maybe Paris, it's really, really sad for them.
Oh, I love that. Respectful. I'm above that.
But
trash
also the
talk.
confidence where he
Yeah.
was just like, yeah, I'd be really disappointed getting that clean 3-0 against such good friends, you know? I mean, if you want to do them a favor, you could just throw your next 2 series and let Misfits catch up. That's the alternative.
But that's kind of impossible, I think.
Yeah, mathematically speaking. And I'm glad you bring that up. We have a standings graphic that we can,
Perfect.
educate.
I didn't
Yes.
really mean mathematically, but yeah, sure.
It actually is. If you look at the numbers here, damn
very
it,
true.
I keep passing you compliments that you just spit back. Look, Fnatic and G2 locked in Group A. Over on the side of Group B, of course, Splice, they're now chasing H2K and UOL. And as you so rightly pointed out, Mithy, if you don't take first, you will be playing Splice in
Can
the
we take
quarterfinals.
first? I don't think it's even possible.
Yes.
Absolutely can.
Fnatic,
Okay?
how many games do they have to play? 2?
Correct. They have 3 series to play. 1 tomorrow, 2 more next week. They have to lose to Ninjas in Pajamas or Roccat and you. Now, I'm just saying, technically, they can lose first. What are the odds, if you give it a percentage, of them losing to Nip or Roccat?
They can't.
I mean, Roccat beat them already. That's like...
They can't lose.
Are they just that good right now?
Whoa, Mithy.
They-
Because let's not forget that Roccat beat Fnatic with a 0-14 Jarvan.
Yeah, but Fnatic plays better now.
Okay, compared to that.
Yeah.
That's fair. I mean, that's fair. They have grown a lot since Rift Rivals, and we have commended them a lot, not only of their ability to establish within meta picks, but also just their playstyle in general. They seem like a very well-rounded team.
Yeah,
right now.
I think so. I think they're a good team.
If we're going to assume Fnatic take first in Group A, you guys take second, and we assume H2K take first in Group B, do you think that's a fair assessment?
I have no. I'm not even watching the group standings because I just know that I'm gonna win the whole thing anyway. So.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Okay, I do have one serious question for you for Misfits. Over the last few weeks since Rift Rivals, they've only picked up 4 game wins and 8 game losses. In those losses, they've lost to Unicorns of Love, Fnatic, Splice, and G2. Misfits are on a downward spiral on the same trajectory that you're in the opposite, right? Because G2 at the beginning of the split was struggling, and now you're finding your form. Why is it going so wrong for Misfits?
I'm not sure, honestly. I would like to say that today they got outdrafted in both games, and I think they, at least when we scrim against them and so on, they have good ideas of how to play the game, but they fail to execute. Maybe they lack on their game understanding or shot calling, and they tend to just take the wrong fights. Individually, they're not super good either, so they're not really getting advantages from the individual side of things, but mostly through team play, and at least against the top teams, right? And team play works sometimes. They have a very like standard style where they just pick kind of tanks, mage, carry. Everything is very standard from them, but I think they just fail to execute a lot of times. Maybe sometimes they're afraid, sometimes they just don't know what to do. They always fail on something.
Personally, I just think that right now they lack an identity of how to win the game, because to me it feels like the only way they win is if they get early leads, which they do against teams worse than them. But when you go up against a team like G2 and you don't get an early leads, like I can trust G2 if they fall 2k gold behind Fnatic, the game is not over. But if I see that versus for Misfits, I have no confidence that they'll find a way back in.
It's something you've said a lot. You can actually see on your screens right now that the Misfit squad are still backstage talking about the games, analyzing the games. And, you know, I mentioned they've only picked up 4 game wins. They've only taken 2 games off their 4 opponents. That's UOL, Fnatic, Splice, and G2. And when you consider Splice and UOL, excuse me, aren't in the strongest of form, it's a worrying thought, but they are likely to make it to quarterfinals, and then we'll see if a best of 5 benefits them. It just doesn't feel great for a squad that had a lot of promise in spring.
Personally, yeah, I think it very much depends on who they go up against, because we have a super important matchup between Splice and Unicorns of Love this Saturday, and if Misfits go up against Splice, I think that Splice is way more likely to make it into top 4, but if they go up against Unicorns, I just think that could be a super close game, only because of Unicorns' recent performance, and I actually don't think that they're in the top 4 right now.
Right.
I don't know, Misfits is just so strange because you can say that for Splice and Unicorns, they kind of have a style, or at least you can kind of see some patterns, but for Misfits, they are a very standard team, and they're very consistent, and they're very consistent and playing their standard way, but they just always do something wrong. Always. There's always something wrong, and I'm sure that they go into the games and they're like, okay, we screwed up here, but they still do something different wrong some other time. So it just feels like there's always an uphill struggle with them, and I'm not really sure what they have to fix exactly. I can't just say this guy is hinting or this guy is doing this always wrong. It's
different every week.
It's a team thing, and it's mostly a team thing too. So I'm not really sure.
I can imagine it's one of those really difficult things to fix, because let's say that if you struggle to play team fights, you struggle to play 1-3-1, like that seems like a holistic thing that you as a team can work towards and you can practice. But if it's that single, oh no, I failed a flash, oh no, I missed an ult, oh no, like we went to Baron at the wrong time, like that's a separate thing that I feel is super difficult to just rectify, because it's one of those in the moment executions that you can't just like practice, you know?
Yeah, that's the thing. You can talk about it, but if you don't really fix it for the next game, or something different happens in the next game and you're not able to adapt in the game, then you're just going to fall behind teams that are smarter than you overall. So,
well, let's see what happens with
really
Misfits. Tomorrow, if H2K take down Vitality, Misfits will, guarantee themselves at least an appearance in the postseason. We'll see how well they perform. I want to change topic a little bit and look towards something a bit more exciting, especially because you're never going to win and that is the Player of the Series leaderboard. Let's take a look at how many people have won Player of the Series. This is not an attack on you, Mithy, but support players very rarely get celebrated in this. I'm sure that's something you're very excited about, right?
Yeah.
So,
Totally.
just want to quickly remind everybody, of course, this is how many players have won the Player of the Series throughout the course of the summer split. It will form part of the end of season MVP voting. You can see Samix up at the top of the table with 4, and then a bunch of players at 3. Just a quick reminder that as we get to the end of the regular season, shoutcasters from across Europe in all different languages, they'll vote for their MVP, for their all-pro team. We're also going to ask journalists as well as the EU LCS teams and players themselves. The players get a vote, their coach get a vote. And we want to see whether or not, or who's going to pick this up. Mithy, who's it going to be? Who do you think is the MVP of the summer split?
Me?
Well, you're not on the board. You're not on the
I
board,
thought when
mate.
he said me, he was just like, oh, you're asking me? Oh.
Also, like, I saw those Janna plays. I mean, that was all. That was all
I
Sven,
know.
man.
I really can't get MVP, but I don't know.
It's a tough question, isn't it?
You just have to give it to a mid laner or an AD carry because it's
Or a
You don't think
jungler.
expect?
or a jungler. No,
I've been very impressed with expect
I
this.
thought you were going to make a pun. I was ready for it.
No, we're professional over here.
Okay,
That's why
okay,
we
okay.
brought you on rather than Sven.
Expect is doing. He's been hard carrying some games.
Yeah.
Maybe you can give him some MVPs.
Yeah,
That'd be
definitely.
nice. Trick has one already. Luca has one already.
Yep.
So
Expect
give it
got
to Expect.
he got a player of the series today. We'll see whether or not he gets the votes later. We're about to wrap up the day. Before we do, I've heard some bold calls from you today, Mithy. You're going to defeat Splice in quarterfinals. You're going to win the whole thing. It's a confidence you did not have 4 weeks ago. It's a confidence you definitely didn't have at Rift Rivals. So why is there so much cojones on this analyst desk right now? Where does it come from?
I'm not sure, man. I'm not sure. I just feel good. I think things are going good. Life is good. So yeah, I don't know. I feel like it's really. I'm not really competing with anyone else. I'm just competing with myself nowadays. So yeah, I
That's
don't really.
good.
Yeah,
I'm
I'm my only enemy. So
I have one last question for you. Who will you defeat in the EU LCS Summer Split Finals?
whoever we face.
Great answer. If you guys have missed any of the series from today, we will be rebroadcasting the action starting at 6 p.m. Pacific time. That's 2 a.m. here in Europe if you're still up. The ULCS returns tomorrow with a clash between HTK and Vitality. There's a lot of playoff spots on the line, and that will be followed by Fnatic versus Roccat. If Roccat surprise Fnatic, that is how G2 can get their foot in the door and first in their group. We'll see if it's possible. Mithy, thank you very much. Thank you, Vedius, as well. You were not quite as entertaining. We will see you all tomorrow for some more battles in the summer split. Same time, same place, 5 p.m. See you then.
See ya.
See these two teams clash, and there's so much to talk about during the laning phase, a lot of things to break down. I think we're in for a pretty exciting matchup.
Oh, there definitely will be blood. Kazu incredibly low. Kabi flashing forward with the plumage. He's going to be able to pull those feathers out for a kill onto Kazu. And they come right into the pit, push the monkeys out. Thank you very much. We will take your Baron. The action just doesn't stop Vedius right now. Exhaust is down. They